Hello Year 8, it's Mrs. Reed again and welcome to Lesson 2 where we will be exploring non-fiction texts. Can you make sure you have everything ready before we start? Today's Thursday the 9th of September, we're on Lesson 2. Make sure you have access to the lesson, I'm sure you've done that by now if you've got to the video. Grab yourself a pen or pencil, something to write with. Make sure you have some paper or a notebook, something to write on. And allow yourself time to complete this lesson. You should need about 45 minutes and you need to make sure as well that phones are off and away and you are distraction free. So the first thing we're going to do today, and you might wish to pause the video for this in a moment, is to answer the 4 questions. These are retrieval questions, so they're going to get you thinking back to our learning from yesterday. Number 1 asks you to write down the name of the term that refers to placing 2 contrasting things side by side in order to highlight their differences. And all you'll need to write down here is the number 1 and then the word that answers that question. Number 2, can you tell me what the word bedlam means? We looked at the etymology, the history and origin of this word yesterday. Number 3, what is the difference between explicit and implicit information? Can you write a sentence in your own words that explains what those 2 terms mean? And number 4, just for a bit of fun, can you remember how many puppies did Millie the Dalmatian have? Pause the video and off you go. Okay, so I'm going to whip through the answers here. Don't forget to pause the video again if you're not quite ready. And you can give yourself a mark out of 4. Number 1, which term refers to placing 2 contrasting things side by side? Well, this was the term juxtapose. I also used the term juxtaposition, but we said in the text that the writer juxtaposed the quietness and peacefulness of the farm against the chaos and noisiness of the arrival of those 16 puppies. Number 2, what does the word bedlam mean? Well, I said to you this was a word that means a scene of chaos and confusion, but it was a word with a dark history, originating from the Bethlehem Royal Hospital, which later became known colloquially as Bedlam, and referred to this noisy and chaotic hospital where mentally unwell patients were treated very badly. Number 3, what's the difference between explicit and implicit information? Well, you may have phrased this slightly differently, but I want you to check your answer carefully here. So explicit information, we said, was that information which is directly stated in the text. It's very easily proven. We can find clear evidence of it. Implicit information is not directly stated. It is implied, and the reader has to infer using a range of different evidence or clues in the text and begin to read between the lines. Number 4, Millie had 16 puppies. Well noted if you realised I said that in answer to an earlier question. Give yourself a mark out of 4. Let's go. So your reading material today is another non-fiction text, but this one is much older. It's a 19th century text published in 1846, and it's an extract from a book about carriage dogs. So in the 19th century, Dalmatians were known as carriage dogs, and this meant that they used to run alongside stagecoaches to protect the horses because they were thought to have a really calming effect on them. So in this text by Edward Jesse, the bond and relationship between the Dalmatians and the horses is clearly shown. You will find this text attached as a PDF on Show My Homework. So if you would like to, you may pause the video now and read through that text in full before we begin. What we will be doing in the lesson is going through different paragraphs and looking at, again, that explicit and implicit information. Okay, so our starting point today is paragraph 1. I'm going to read that to you. That should appear on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side, you should see a task to complete once I've finished reading. The Dalmatian is handsome in shape, something between the British Foxhound and English Pointer. We can see here that the Foxhound and the Pointer are two other types and breeds of British dog. His head is more delicate than that of the latter and something longer. His general colour is white. The Dalmatian, his general colour is white, and his whole body and legs are covered with small, irregular-sized black or reddish-brown spots. The pure breed has tanned cheeks and black ears. A singular opinion prevailed at one time in this country that this beautiful dog was made more handsome by having his ears cropped. To have your ears cropped meant to cut the dog's ears shorter. However, the writer notes that this barbarous fancy, this cruel procedure, is now fast dying away. So, in order to show your understanding of the explicit information directly stated in the text, I would like you to pause the video and to list 4 things that we learn about Dalmatians. Off you go. Okay, so let's check your answers. You might have said, number 1, that Dalmatians are similar to other breeds of dogs such as a foxhound and a pointer, or in fact they are handsome in shape, so they're sort of similar in shape between those two breeds, or somewhere between them. You might have said that Dalmatians are white with spots on their body. You might have focused on the colour of those spots, the fact that they are small and irregular spots on their bodies. You might have mentioned that Dalmatians sometimes have tanned cheeks and black ears, or that Dalmatians used to have their ears cropped, or people used to believe that Dalmatians looked more beautiful when they had cropped ears. So all of those things could easily be backed up and proven by the text. We didn't really need to change the wording too much in order to get those right. Okay, let's carry on reading. This time I'm going to ask you to answer some quick comprehension questions and find some evidence again in the text. You might want to pause the video at the end, or you can jot these down as I read. Again, you just need to write the number and the short answer. Let's go. The late Mr. Thomas Walker of Manchester had a small Dalmatian dog, which was accustomed to be in the stable with 2 of his carriage horses, and to lie in a stall with one of them, to which he was particularly attached. The servant who took care of the horses was ordered to go to Stockport, which is distant about 7 miles, upon one of the horses, and took the one above mentioned, the favourite of the dog, with him, and left the other with the dog in the stable, being apprehensive in case the dog, which was much valued by his master, should be lost upon the road. So I want you to answer those questions, please, really nice and quickly. Number 1, let's jot down what was the name of the dog's owner. Should be able to find that in the first sentence. Number 2, how many horses were there in the stable? Quick scanning of the text here, find the answer, jot it down. Number 3, where was the servant ordered to go? Where did he take the horses? You're looking for a capital letter here, a proper noun, the name of a place. And number 4, why? Give me a reason. Why did the servant leave the dog in the stable? Looking in the final sentence, can you identify any feelings or ideas that suggest there was a reason for him to leave the dog behind? Okay, well done then if you notice that the late Mr. Thomas Walker, was the name of the dog's owner, that there were 2 carriage horses in the stable, one of which the dog was particularly attached to, but the servant was ordered then to take the horses to Stockport, And finally, the servant left one of the dogs behind because, was left behind because he was apprehensive, worried in case the dog was lost upon the road. And he also left him behind because he was worried that if he lost the dog, that would upset the owner. We can infer that he said he was much valued by his master and therefore he would be upset should the dog not return. Okay, give yourself a quick mark out of 4 and let's carry on. So we're going to read through a slightly longer part now, 2 more paragraphs. And this time I want you to be looking carefully for any evidence that tells us about the bond and the relationship between the dog and the horse. I'm going to be asking you in a moment to say what you can infer. So again, what can you tell by the clues in the text about the bond between these 2 animals? Let's read first. After the man and horse had been gone about an hour, some person coming accidentally into the stable, the dog took the opportunity of quitting his imprisonment and immediately set off in search of his horse companion. The man, who had finished the business he was sent upon, was just leaving Stockport when he was surprised to meet the dog he had left in the stable, coming with great speed down the hill into the town, and seemed greatly rejoiced to meet with his friendly companion, whom he had followed so far by scent. The friendship between these animals was mutual, for the servant, going one day to water the carriage horses at a large stone trough, was then at one end of the marketplace. The dog, as usual, accompanying them, was attacked by a large mastiff and in danger of being much worried. When the horse, his friend, was led by the servant with a halter, suddenly broke loose from him and went to the place where the dogs were fighting. With a kick of one of its heels, it struck the mastiff from the other dog clean into a cellar opposite, and having thus rescued his companion, returned quietly with him to drink at the trough. So we've got 2 incidents here outlined, one in each paragraph, that show us the relationship between the horse and the dog. So in your own words, can you write a sentence that gives an inference here? What can you infer about them from these details? Pause the video and spend no more than a couple of minutes on that, please. Okay, so hopefully we can infer here that the dog and the horse do really have a close relationship. They appear to care greatly for one another, and in fact they don't really like to be apart. We can see that the dog has chased after the horse to try and be with it when it was left on its own, and the horse, of course, has come to help and protect the dog when it has got into a fight. So we can see that there is what we're told is a mutual relationship, that both animals seem to be really caring for one another. Okay, so our final check here is for understanding, and I want you to think about some key quotations from those 2 paragraphs. Now I've put this down for you in the form of a grid, so you can copy the grid and then complete the sentences. Look at the top one as an example. Here I have a quotation from the text which tells me something about the relationship or bond between the 2 animals. The dog took the opportunity of quitting his imprisonment and immediately set off in search of his horse companion. On the right side of the table I have made an inference, and in my own words I've placed a sentence which clearly explains what I understand from this quote. The dog is eager to see the horse and escapes as soon as he can in order to find his friend. I would like you to do the same for the following 2 quotations. Read the quotation again, and in your own words explain, what do we learn about the horse here? And in the last one, what do we learn about both animals? Make sure you've written this as a full sentence and it clearly communicates your understanding of the text. Pause the video and spend about 5 to 6 minutes on that now, please.